Today it's time for a professional match of StarCraft 2, and what I've got for you is a Zerg versus Terran on King's Cove LE. Spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map and playing with the red Zerg drones. From South Korea, we're looking inside of the main base of Solar. And his opponent, actually already being a little bit cheeky, sending what seems to be two SCVs towards the other side of the map with the blue colors. Likewise, also from South Korea, we have none other than Cure. Alrighty, so let's see what Cure wants to do in the early game, because it looks like he wants to get really aggressive. Obviously, this is going to be some sort of barracks cheese. I like this position a lot, especially if he decides to plant down a second barracks, if he decides to go refinery, yes. So if you go Reapers, obviously, you can jump up and down these cliffs really easily and make your way towards the main base here of the Zerg. Now it all comes down here to whether or not Solar scouts this. If he scouts it, I mean, he's going to be in a great spot. If he doesn't see it, he should see it right here, right? If he doesn't see it, he's going to be in a world of trouble. I mean, at the very least, it's going to make the defense a lot harder. Solar actually decides to reroute that Overlord. He's not going to see it. Oh my god, he was actually on the path. Solar! Ooh, that's gonna be so close. He's rerouting this Overlord constantly. Oh my god. Is that in... No, he's not... Oh my god, that's... Stop playing with my feelings like that, Solar. No, he's not gonna see it. He would have seen it with his original Overlord path, but he decided to change direction, and that means that these Reapers are gonna go into the main base of the Zerg player completely unscouted. Now, obviously, that's not the end of the world, because these players, since they are top-level contenders, they have really good micros, so you should be able to deal with these Reapers anyways, but obviously, this is one of those things where Cure is not actually trying to finish the game, he's just trying to put on a bunch of pressure to try and slightly get that edge here in the early stages of the game. So let's see how much damage he's going to be able to do. I like this, though. One cliff right here, second cliff, straight into the main base. And this is the moment where Solar will find out. Now, obviously, judging here by the timing of that Reaper, he will know that that barracks is proxied. It all comes down right here to that drone control. Good control so far. Morphs in that Spore Crawler as well. Zerglings are just about to finish up as well. Drones obviously tanking a little bit of that damage. Link speed will come up here eventually too. One of the drones there does get picked off. Once the Queens are out, they can actually ward away these Reapers relatively easily, because obviously they can shoot their little missiles from a bit of a distance, especially if they stand on the perimeter of the creep. But still, look at this. Cure already putting on a whole bunch of pressure, and he's following this up in the meantime at home with a factory. So this is not going to be an all-in from him. He's just trying to put on as much pressure as he possibly can. Nice little bit of control, throwing those KD8 charges at the Queen and then also at those Zerglings, just dealing as much damage as possible. There we go. Tumor inside of the main base. That's going to, at the very least, allow these Queens to move a little bit further forward. Looks like the Reapers aren't going to see that. There was an inject in the natural, so quite a few Zerglings can be produced here in just a little bit, but already, right? This is putting on so much pressure. Solar's producing so many units that he really doesn't want to produce at this point in the game, and Cure is happily macroing behind this as well. Now, the creep right there will indicate that there's a tumor somewhere, so he needs to be cautious. The creep is going to slowly spread. Link speed is going to finish up in just about 10 seconds. Is Cure going to go home? I would love it if he went home right now. I mean, I guess with this amount of Reapers, you can actually be caught by the Zerglings as well and still get out, but I wouldn't mind seeing him go home right now, just because, you know, the Lynx will have speed in just a little bit, and that's going to make this very... Oh my god, he's so good. Look at that. He knows exactly when it's going to finish. Speaking of them being really good, as of me making this video, Solar is the rank 5 in the world, Cure is the rank 8. Yet I feel like we don't talk about these two players nearly as much as they probably deserve, right? I mean, they're both top 10 level players. There's the barracks, by the way, trying to land on where that third hatchery would be. Reapers made their way home just before the Zerglings did as well. That does mean that they're going to be able to jump into the safety of that main base as well. Can he try and get the SCV that's building the command center? Doesn't look like that will be the case. So far, though, it seems to be okay. And yeah, Cure is going to be just fine here for the time being. Now, this is the moment where Solar wants to drone, okay? This is the point in the game where he really wants to make as many of those workers as possible. He wasn't able to produce a whole lot of drones here in the early game, and it obviously puts the advantage in the side of the Terran, or on the side of the Terran, rather. We have those mules happily mining away. He's producing a couple of SCVs right here at once as well, as soon as this command center finishes. Yep, there we go. Second orbital comes up, and he's going to be able to start dropping those mules left and right. So Solar needs to make as many drones here as possible if he wants to stay up to date right here with that economy. What is the follow-up plan going to be for Cure, though? Because obviously he kept most of those Reapers alive, and they're actually going to be very helpful here with that Heli and Harass as well. He lost only 1 and he killed 4. This is such a big kill count, right? That's so sick. 1 Overlord, by the way, apparently also ended up dying. That's an Overlord with that new skin. Actually, Zerglings with the new skin as well. If you can somehow, some way pick up that hatchery, that would be huge, but Queens obviously are going to be very helpful. I would love it if he actually decided to fill in this wall right over here, too. Nice scan there. Ooh, I do like that scan. Zergling's actually going for the runaround, it seems like. We'll see if he actually decides to get aggressive here, yeah. I mean, Cure must realize here that there's no Zerglings. This could actually be a disaster. Love this. Cure just barely finishing up that wall. But at this point, he does have 4 Hellions at home. I think he should be okay. Majority of the Terran army once again going to town here on the 3rd base, but there are the Zerglings. Hellions holding the perimeter just fine, trying their best to defend that ramp as well, and he will deflect. Cure is so good, right? Yet I feel like we don't talk about Cure nearly as often as he deserves. So like I was saying, he's the rank 8 in the world, and the reason why we don't really talk about him too much is because while he hasn't really won any major premier tournament in his life, he's got a couple of GSL Code S semifinals. He's definitely amongst the best Terran players in the world, yet he's won not nearly as much as some of these other guys. I do think we need to remember that he exists, right? He's still currently in the GSL Code S as well in around the 16. So we'll see if he maybe can get one of those GSL victories under his belt. I guess one of the reasons, right? Actually, hold that thought. Hellions once again poking up. Not gonna get too much. I guess one of the reasons is that there's not a whole lot of tournaments over in South Korea these days. Hellions, are they gonna commit? I don't think so, no. There's not that many tournaments over in South Korea, so winning one is very hard. Because, well, in every single premier event, there's always gonna be those top names as well that are participating from South Korea that we are all very, very familiar with. And obviously you have to beat all of those if you want to be crowned the champion as well, so it's very difficult to obtain victories. It's actually a little bit strange as well, because if I'm not mistaken, non-Koreans can participate in the Korean WCS system, but Koreans cannot participate in the non-Korean WCS system. I wonder if they're going to change that. Once upon a time, those region locks were set in place because, well, Koreans were winning everything. But as we all know right now, I mean, the current world champion is obviously Sero, and the non-Koreans, at the very least, judging by GSL versus the world, have caught up in skill level just fine. I wouldn't mind seeing that opened up once again to see those Koreans travel a little bit. Cure, I think if he would have been allowed to travel more and he would have been able to participate in a lot of those, offline events around the world, he would be in a much better spot. Anyways, Queens shooting away right here at those 2 Banshees. But for now, I mean, everything is looking pretty good. Solar gonna go up towards that Spire. Ooh, okay. So very uncommon to see people playing Roaches, Zerglings. I mean, those 2 units together already are a little bit odd. But then also Spire. Keep in mind, there's no Baneling Nest here, as far as I can tell. So if there's a big stimped bio army, which seems to be the transition right now for Cure, this could actually be a disaster, because dealing with those with just Roaches and then also, I mean, maybe like Zerglings with like no upgrades and all that, it's gonna be a tricky army to stop. Evolution Chamber is only just now coming up, so we'll see right here what Solo wants to do. Already throws down the Infestation Pit as well, so I mean, the thing is, okay, yeah, he's got to produce 6 Mutalisks. I don't think he wants to produce too many more. We'll see, though. We'll have to judge here by the Evolution Chamber upgrades. He actually decides to cancel and now go Baneling Nest instead. Okay, I like that choice a lot better. Yeah, okay, he cancels the Infestation Pit, and then he decides to produce more Mutalisk. That's actually a really smart choice. I mean, the thing is, if you go for the Infestation Pit, I mean, yeah, you can make Infestors, but Infestors and Mutas, very difficult to pull off. You just don't have the gas for that, unless you go up to like 6 hatcheries, but it's much too early for that. And obviously, if you go Infestation Pit this early on, you're likely wanted to go up towards the Hive, at which point Mutas aren't going to be all that helpful anymore, because you want to save up gas for those Hive upgrades. So, +1 melee right here does start up, so Solar definitely wants to go Lings and Banes here. Maybe he wants to go heavy Mutas. We haven't seen that in a while. Does morph in a couple of Ravagers right now, too. Alright, so at this point, these Mutas will finally be scouted. Look at that. It's so uncommon nowadays to go Mutalisk that people don't even go for those missile turrets anymore. Still though, the majority of the army here of Cure is on the other side of the map. He doesn't have much of a counter other than those Marines for the Mutalisk, but I think for the time being, they are just going to be fine. Big stim forward right here. Wants to try and get a whole lot of damage though. Now sadly for Cure, yeah, those siege tanks, oh actually, they were touching, but apparently the balls were misplaced, and that does mean that one of the tanks does stay alive. Very critical. Couple more of those SCVs do end up going down, but the reinforcing Marines are going to be enough as well. Let's see if there's going to be enough here for Solar to defend. It looks like that will be the case, but I still don't really mind that push all too much. I mean, only just now, Solar managed to secure a 4th base. Does Cure already have a 4th command center? He doesn't actually. Okay. Yeah, if you would have had a 4th command center nearly done, that would have been much better. Now, this is big. This is one of the reasons why I personally don't go mutas that often anymore. Mutas require a ton of babysitting, okay? If you make one mistake, it's essentially all of the mutas gone. If Marines manage to get underneath, you're in a wonderful position. But obviously, if your control is really good, mutas can get so much damage in. And this is where the APM starts mattering. Look at that. Solar pressing more than 10 buttons a second right now, trying to manage all of the things that are going on. And he once again finds a weakness right here in the defense of Cure. Really good stuff. I mean, you should put down just a couple missile turrets, man. Just a couple missile turrets. Actually, ooh. I didn't catch that. But I think there were 2 kills there of engineering base. Am I crazy? Yeah, 2 engineering base were killed. So Cure is actually now very delayed right here when it comes to those 2-2 upgrades. He had a nice upgrade lead. But right now, that advantage here for Terran has been evened up as soon as Solar starts up those upgrades. He needs to start them pretty quickly. At this point, he's actually going for a Corruptor. Okay, yeah. No, he cancels the Corruptor and goes +2/+2. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. Now, microing with Mutalisks, it's doable, right? As long as you have the APM to do so. It's gonna become a lot harder once there are Thors. I like this a lot. So we now see a switch right here from Cure, from Siege Tanks towards Thors, and then also what seems to be Widow Mines, as we have the Drilling Claws upgrade coming up. He does go for the 4th command center right now. Marines are spread out everywhere. And they should be able to defend this. Does anyone remember the days when, like, mutas flew into the base and Terrans would literally stim their entire army? I don't know if anyone remembers that. What was the normal response back in the day of Wings of Liberty? Everyone, I mean, we were too good to use an all army hotkey. Actually, I don't think there was an all army hotkey in Wings of Liberty, but most players would just simply have all of their units on one hotkey anyway, so it was just kind of the nature of things. But people would usually stim literally every single Marine that they had to try and, like, ward away 5 Mutalisks. It was really silly. I remember flying into Terran bases and then seeing the whole army stimmed and then just leaving, realizing I just effectively killed like 20% of the Terran force just by flying in. It was a good time, but nowadays though, mutas, definitely a niche unit. I've been making the joke over at the live stream that unless you are above 6k MMR, you shouldn't even think about using Mutalisk. And obviously that's not necessarily true, but it's not a terrible guideline. Yeah, mutas, they are extremely helpful if you can continuously harass and keep them on the move while also managing everything else. And it's super difficult to do so. You need a lot of APM, you need a lot of actions to try and pull that kind of thing off. Now, one thing it is forcing right now, though, and I know Cure loves going for it, it's shutting down a lot of the drop play. Cure, generally speaking, goes for tons of drops. Since he knows the mutas are out, he doesn't really want to roam nearly as much as he normally does. And this right now does open up the opportunity here for the Zerg player to go up towards those Ultralisks. Currently, there is not really much of a counter yet for Cure, but he just added on 3 additional barracks. So we will likely see him go for the Ghost Academy here in just a little bit as well. He will need some of that in order to deal with those Ultralisks. Nice pickup there. Manages to evacuate most of those Marines, but the real issue here... We see a nice little bit of trading here, but the real issue here is becoming, or it's that creep threat, right? Like, it's becoming a little bit crazy. The creep is literally everywhere, and since he can't really be out on the map nearly as easily because of those Mutalisks, the creep is eventually gonna reach the natural here of the Terran. Okay, Cure Luck, it looks like he wants to go for a bit of a push here. So that Thor obviously deals a tremendous amount of splash damage, and that's its real strength. Yep, pick it up, get out of there. Beautiful. These mutas cannot be clumped up, right? The Javelin missiles of those Thors are absolutely ridiculous, and the mutas will be cleaned up really easily. Does manage to get the Widow Mine there. Oh, he's going for a second Spire, so he wants to commit to those mutas, or at the very least 2 air units. Maybe he wants to go Greater Spire here eventually, and then start double upgrading. But it looks like Solar actually wants to get aggressive. This is currently unscouted here by the Terran player, who's actually also right now on the move out. This could become a bit of a disaster. Widow Mines do need to be burrowed. Okay, he manages to do so. But look at the creep. It's so far out. I mean, this is going to take a couple minutes right here for the Terran player to move forward. I mean, he could move onto the creep, but that's really risky. Well, that hatchery certainly is not going to live. Couple of Banelings right now coming from the back as well as Solar pulls the trigger. He wants to move forward. Couple of Banes from the back. Are they going to be able to get something done? Not really. They all roll into one of those Thors. And that right now means the Cure has an opportunity to potentially stim forward here and end this game right here, right now. Oh, look at the Javelin missiles picking up so many of the mutas who right now seem to want to go for the counterattack. fourth base here of the Zerg player does fall, and Cure is smelling blood in the water. He needs to be careful, though. He's moving really far on creep. That means that these Roaches, Ravagers, Zerglings, and Banelings are gonna have an easy time connecting with that Terran army. The Thor, though, is still available. It will finally be picked off. Finally, an Ultralisk joins the fray. Chitinous Plating did just finish up, so that does mean that he's gonna be able to hold here for now, but that is a lot of losses. And Cure right now finds himself in a really good spot. He needs to be careful, though. The counterattack right now for Zerg can be really scary. Keep in mind, there's really not much of a counter right now available for those Mutas, but also not really for those Ultralisks. He needs to start up some counter. I mean, Thors are good against both, but I think you should see a switch right now towards, well, maybe like Liberators or maybe Ghosts. I think Ghosts are the way to go. If you could make a couple of Ghosts right now, that would be really good, but he needs to be careful, right? I mean, if you switch towards Ghosts too much, and then Zerg just simply remaxes and attack moves, you're gonna have like 3 Ghosts and like no energy, and life is gonna be hard. So he probably wants to make the switch here eventually, but for now, he's just gonna stick with Marines, Marauders, Medivacs, and Thors. And you know what? Maybe he wants to continue forcing this. Huh. I love the Ultralisks right here, by the way, as a stepping stone towards what seems to be a greater spire. That seems to be their real purpose right now. Nice bile right there on those Widow Mines. Once again, though, Cure has a scary army. 3-3 just finished up as well, which is nowhere to be seen right here for Zerg. So this Terran army is going to be well upgraded. And once again, the creep has not been connected just yet. Solar's trying to retake the base right here in the center. Ultra should be able to pick most of these units up. You got to be careful, though. I mean, obviously, Ultralisks, they can be picked off by those Marauders, but this is a lot of Ultras, and right now, since we're fighting on creep, that means that they are really fast, and the Queens can help out in these engagements as well. Still, the Widow Mines are burrowed everywhere, and that hatchery in the center is once again gonna have a little bit of trouble. Look at the rally point as well right now. Looks like Cure is just simply sending all of his units across the map while securing another base right here on the right-hand side. Beautiful play here so far by the South Korean Terran player. Slowly, methodically moving forward, scanning to make sure that he can get rid of this creep. And he's starting to get into a position that's actually really difficult to break right here for Zerg, right? Like, I mean, if you're in the center here, and there's no creep there, how are you going to break that? Well, one way to do so, I guess, is... Never mind, guys. It's Brute Lords. There's no counter for Brute Lords. I mean, there's Marines. And there's a couple of Thors, but those Brute Lords are certainly going to shoot his army away. Right? There's a lot of Queens here available as well. They have tons of energy. Solar, like I was saying earlier, using those Ultralisks as a stepping stone. On paper, Ultralisks are kind of decent, but a lot of the Zerg, or rather, a lot of the Terran late-game units do counter these units, and they're really not that strong straight up. Once the, once the Marauder count is high enough, and once the Ghosts and Liberators and all that are out, there's a lot of counters here for those Ultras, but they did buy enough time here to get those Brute Lords out. Finally, we see the Ghost Academy. That one feels a little bit late to me. Also, we only just now actually see additional starports. So that means most of the defense right now against Brute Lords is just going to be Thors and Marines. I wonder if that's going to be enough, actually. Like, Solar has been up with his back against the wall here for the last couple of minutes. Right now, though, he's found himself in a position where Terran really doesn't have much of an answer. Cure seems like he maybe wants to set up a surround. This is such a difficult army to control, though. Cure once again going for the counterattack. Looks like this one will be cleaned up. Yeah, you know what? He's actually just abandoning his bases altogether. He's trying to force this Zerg army to go home by going for the offensive instead. I guess the best defense is going on the offense, but Cure, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble at home, my man. I mean, he's finally producing 4 Vikings at once, not even able to go for any of those attachments on those starports. He does it to Ghost Academy right now as well. You probably did not expect this really quick switch towards those Brute Lords. Now, once again, though, we have those Terran hit squads, right? Dealing a lot of damage. Base right here on the left-hand side will certainly fall. This one will be forced to get picked off as well, but keep in mind, Planetary Fortress here in the center ended up dying as well. And we now also see the Planetary Fortress a little bit further up north. That's also taking a beating. Still, there are a lot of defenses here available, and Cure has mustered up a decent enough army. He now has 6 of those Vikings available, so he should be able to start pressuring those Brutes a little bit easier. Planetary Fortress, though, does fall, and that's painful. That's really, really painful. Right now, I mean, there's really not that much economy anymore for Terran. Main base is mined out. Natural and Third are running low as well. Brutal army in a bit of a weird spot, and here we go. Cure decides to pull the trigger. He wants to stim all of these units underneath, but there's so much Zerg available as well. Ultralisks and Zerglings, and then also Ravagers coming from the back, trying to clean up as much of this Terran army as possible. Oh, the Marines do stim forward. They manage to get underneath all of those brutes as well. The brutes are actually running, or I guess flying away for their lives, kiting to the best of their abilities. And it looks like the Marines will actually get picked off as well. A couple of ghosts right now being produced. There's already a few running here too, but they don't seem to have too much available anymore for any kind of snipes. And that does mean that Solar is likely going to be able to continue pushing here. I mean, he's got a strong army. Where's all of his supply at? There's really not that much. Ooh, love the addition of Vipers right now as well, but I think you can just flood this, dude. Just swarm him. Hit him with the swarm. As long as you manage to overwhelm this, it's gonna be great. Ah, I guess he was waiting right here for the Queens to catch up as well. Obviously, extremely slow off creep. Ugh, the Ghosts. Caught with their pants down in a really awkward position. The Bane's actually hunting for them as well. Main base right now flown over to become the 4th base, but I don't see it happening. Ghosts right here on the left-hand side do get picked off as well. Transfuses going down on so many of those Zerg units. Ultras charging forward, keeping that bio army pinned back, and I think that Solar has done it. Even though this game started off very, very aggressively, and even though Cure has played his absolute heart out, he was not expecting that transition towards those Brute Lords. He was trying to buy time with the counterattacks, but Solar proves a little bit too strong. What an excellent game. That was really cool. I hope you enjoyed watching that, right? I mean, this is the kind of game of StarCraft that I love watching. For the longest time, we had the player with the better macro or the player with the better micro that ended up winning, right? However, since all of the top level players right now have really good macro and really good micro, we've arrived at the strategy aspect of real-time strategy. I mean, for the last like 8-9 years, we've been focusing primarily on the real-time aspect, but this game was both players continuously trying to outsmart each other strategically. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel directly, consider checking out my Patreon page at patreon.com/LowkoTV. For now, though, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile. And I'll see you once again tomorrow for another video.